Welcome to Obstacle Running Adventures.
Over the last 7 years, we have consistently released weekly episodes focusing on
obstacle course racing, running, and other adventures.
You'll hear interviews, event recaps, conversations about our sport,
quick news updates about happenings in our community.
And now, here are your hosts,
Standing on the corner,
Michael Stefano and Caitlin Ritter.
Hey guys, it's Michael Stefano.
And Caitlin Ritter. And Michael, how was your weekend?
Pretty good. We did some spooky time stuff with your brother and Emily in Danvers, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Yeah, it took me a while to think of it.
We went to Connor's Haunted Farm?
Yes, which is pretty crazy because we went there over a decade ago, which is weird to think of.
Were we even dating when we went last time?
Oh, we were definitely dating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it just wasn't... I don't know, a lot has changed. It's been built up, and I think it got too popular, and I don't know, the quality wasn't as good as I remember it being.
It was definitely spooky vibes, but not
Yes.
scary. It was how I would love a haunted house.
Yeah, then we saw like 2 scary movies. We saw The Descent, and with them we saw... What's the name of it?
Late Nights with the Devil or something?
Yes, yeah. But you guys didn't come here to listen to what we're watching. I know Dave Claxton recently went on a mini rant about some podcast. But yeah, that was our weekend. And Kayla, let's give a shout out to our sponsors.
Shout out Mudgear. Use code ADVENTURE for 15% off your next Mudgear purchase. And Caterpie. Use code OCRReport20 for 20% off your next Caterpie purchase. And you can use OCR Report 20 for 20% off any Spartan, Ducka, or Tough Mudder events.
For what year?
2014.
Okay. Really? Well, I don't think that's going to work out too well.
2024.
Yes. And it's not the first episode of the month, so we're just going to shout out the $5+ Patreon supporters.
Jason Dupree, Sean Collins, Dave Claxton, for real though, Jason Dupree, Samantha Thompson, Bradley Keel, Charlotte Engelman, Aaron Grindstaff, Laura and Stephen Ritter, Hank and Arlene Stefano, Kenny West, Cheryl Miller, Jessica Johnson, Nick Riker, Christopher Hoover, Kevin Gregory Jr., Evan Irick, Brent George, Logan Nagel, Asa Cunnington, and Seth Rinder-Knetch.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for the support. We greatly appreciate it. And to the OCR Report for being a great home for us on the internets.
And to Will Hicks,
The Podfather. Check it out over at theocrreport.com. They live streamed the USA OCR Championships. So I haven't heard too much about that because it's been a busy few weeks with OCRWC and Croatia and everything going on. But I'll have to look into seeing how that went. And a shout out to our sponsored athletes.
Javier Escobar,
Who's hopefully coming to World's Toughest Mudder.
Kelly Sullivan,
Potentially done with Spartan. I have to talk to her about that.
Spartan? Oh, I thought it was OCR.
I'm pretty sure it said Spartan.
Oh, okay. Ryan Brizolara,
Yeah, pretty sure he's taking on the Savage Series.
Joshua Ried,
Second place in OCRWC 15K.
and Kevin Gregory.
Check out Underdog Fitness. Poll results. I didn't end up putting up the poll that I wanted to in fear that people would think that it was too negative, so I just didn't post it at all. If you
What
didn't
was
have
the
anything nice
poll?
to say. Why didn't you think that there was a decent turnout at OCRWC?
Oh.
And I was thinking Spartan / it being so close to Croatia, or the location / it being at elevation, or diminished quality in OCRWC and acceptance of FISO being like the actual world championships. Because the only thing I agree with out of those is the middle one there.
And to go back to Kelly posted last race, best race, the finale of an illustrious Spartan race career.
Yeah. Unless she meant that as like a catch-all for OCR all in general.
But didn't you post the survey? You did.
I think that was last week.
No, you posted one this week.
Oh, I did. You're right.
Mike posted at 11:03 p.m. Getting ready for bed after a busy work day and a 10.5 mile bike ride. Just realized that I forgot to run/walk my minimum of 2 miles a day. Streak 284 out of 366 days. And Mike said, did I get it done or did I go to bed? And 34 people, or 87% of people, said you got it done. And 13% of people said that you went to bed.
Yeah, and turns out I did do it, so thanks for all the people that believed in me. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, it was ended up being a late night. I was very tired.
Wow, the people who said went to bed are people who know you personally. That's rude.
That's fine. Well, they just don't know me well. Jack Orris, I see you.
Do you have a meme of the week?
We'll skip it this week. I know I have a whole bucket of them, or a folder of them, but we'll do those another time. We're going to start off with quick news, starting with Asheville, the North Carolina storm destruction. Links down below to learn a lot more of that, but absolutely crazy with the devastation that happened there. I heard there's another podcast I listened to where one of the hosts lives in a town just outside of Asheville, and she actually needed to go to one of the old venues to seek shelter there, which is pretty crazy, and get electricity and Wi-Fi and all that, and completely cut off from a lot of places, which is terrifying. Next news story being prize money for the Spartan Sprint and 100 meter championships. I don't know what's up with these championship events, just releasing it right before the event.
ORM posted for the Sprint 5K World Championship. Third place will get $2,500. Second place will get $5,000. And first place will get $10,000. And for the 100 meter, third place will get $2,500. Second place will get $10,000. And first place will get $20,000.
Yeah, I love that there's a lot of money there. Don't really like that the 100 meter is valued double the sprint, which I don't think that's fair, but other than that, pretty cool. Let's hope that they pay it out. Next up, I wanted to give another shout out to the OCR directory, because we've been talking about them and shouting them out for a while, but I just signed up for their OCR directory newsletter. Link down below. I recommend that you do it as well. Next up, Callie Schweikart got a spinal fusion and decompression. So she said that this is unlike anything I've ever experienced before, and it's going to be quite the process, but I'm excited. I'm ready and excited for it. Callie 2.0 incoming. So best of luck with that. That sounds really nice. It sounds like a good thing to have done, but I see her in the walker and everything, so hopefully she has a quick recovery with that.
Orla Wash posted Jess plus Orla equals the most mans, and they got married in a beautiful outdoor ceremony.
Yeah, congratulations to her. Longtime supporters of the sport will remember her as one of the OGs back in the day, who was a big deal. She was known as the Vermonster when she was in the she came back for $100 $1 million mile or whatever too.
Mm-hmm.
But she was an OCR athlete long before then too. Next up, we're going to get to a whole bunch of podiums, starting with the London Southeast Beast.
For the men, in third place, Jason Brunock. In second place, Christian Cross. And in first place, Eduardo Hervey. In third place, Kelly. For the women, in third place for women, Kelly Holmes. In second place, Abigail Blatchford. And in first place, Angela Burquez. And the London Southeast Ultra, in third place, Sven Lusty. In second place, Samuel Costella. And in first place, Olian Stefani. And for the women, in third place, Stein Sloth. In second place, Sophia Padler. And in first place, Aline Pedrecci.
Perfect. And now we have the super for that location too.
In third place for the men, Christian Cross. In second place, Jason Brunnock. And in first place, Eduardo Horvey. And for the ladies, in third place, Grace Camel. In second place, Emma Macria. And in first place, Federica De Caria.
Yeah, she's someone that I've been wanting to have on the show for a while. Congratulations to them. And I think we had another one. Where is it? There we go. Spartan Havara Beast.
In third place for the men, Yosef Babcock. In second place, Richard Chorapa. And in first place, is that not how you say it?
No, it looks like Karapa.
Oh. And in first place, Adam Repose. And for the women, in third place, Helga Borza. In second place, Agatia Pietrozic Dormazadzika.
That's a tough one.
And in first place, Amela Patella.
Patella. That's an English word, patella. And I know we're missing a whole bunch, but this is just what the USA Report has posted so far. And for the USA OCR National Championships.
In third place, Jeff Shady. In second place, Keon E. O'Boyle. And in first place, Kevin Thompson. And for the women, in third place, Chris Swafford. In second place, Courtney Washington. And in first place, Rachel Waters.
Yeah, so congratulations to them. I think that wraps it up. My notes have crushed.
That's right. Secret links, we have 5 of them, so check them out below.
Perfect. Let's get to what this episode is all about. So we wanted to have an athlete on who competed at this year's OCRWC, And a couple days before the event, I found out that my coach, Joshua Ried, would be competing in the 15K. He asked me to keep it quiet, so he did. He took second place in the 15K, so we talk about how he got into fitness, how he found obstacle course racing, how OCRWC went for him, his upcoming FKT, and much, much more. So let's get to the interview with Josh. We'll start off with your name and where you're from.
Joshua Ried and Juror. Now I just went into Joshua Ried. Grew up in New York and was spending most of the time in, well, I'm in a bus right now. You know, you can't really tell. I'll give you a quick little tour here. But yeah, this puppy is stationed mostly around Durango, Colorado, Silverton, Colorado, and occasionally other parts of the country where the mountains are good.
Yeah. So going from it was like Red Hook area to West Coast, what made you abandon us?
Yeah. A few things. One, I was just kind of tired of the oppressive nature of all the mosquitoes and humidity during the summer. And two, I just wanted a change of landscape. I find myself to be incredibly inspired by really big mountains. And though the mountains there is a nice aesthetic to the East Coast, especially I like the White Mountains where you can get a tree line. It can be pretty rugged and rocky. But there's something particularly spectacular about having peaks looming, 5,000+ feet of prominence over you, and how it's all about tree line and you can just kind of like point and go, but there's no trail. It just felt more freeing. So, and I had a buddy that told me like, hey man, he gave me like a list of places to go. This is an old friend of mine. He's like, dude, you got to go to this place and this place. And one of those places was Durango. And then, Kunkel was on the Running Public and he basically opened his house to everyone. I was like, he said he's in Durango. I feel like I'm supposed to go there because my friend said I should go there as well. Just like synchronicities. Yeah. So everything kind of lined up and I was like, you know what? I'm totally free right now. I had moved into my van like 3 months prior to hearing that. I was like, I have nothing holding me to any particular location. Let's go check it out. Yeah. And I ended up going there and being so inspired. Just like the training takes care of itself. The weather is phenomenal. There's not a lot of mosquitoes. It's at altitude. It's just like it's a great place. It's very friendly for van life. One, because it's dry out, so your clothes actually dry. Whereas like on the East Coast, everything just stays wet once it's wet. Yeah. And two, there's just a lot more public land. It's a lot more open for you to basically park anywhere. So you can park at the base of your favorite mountain and wake up, look at it, drink your coffee while you watch the sunrise on it, and then go run up it or hike up it because altitude. Yeah.
So safe to say it's treating you well out there, which is good.
Super well, man. And I met my fiance out here and we've been together for 2.5 years and we've been full-time in the bus for a year and a half. So yeah, extra good.
Yeah. Awesome. And speaking of Running Public, I've been binging through their older episodes now that you got me running a lot more again. And I heard your old episodes and you talked about your fascination with mountains. Like what was that first mountain that really appealed to you and how has that kind of continued your...
I think it was Mount Shasta, might have been the one that I mentioned, which is the volcano in the Cascades. That is the first big mountain I ever climbed. Yeah, to sum up the story, when I was like 20, I was a cable guy, and then my unit shut down, and I was like, oh, I can go on unemployment, like blah blah blah, but I got to figure out what to do in my life. Got an invitation to go sell door to door out in California. I was selling pest control. I did that for a few months. Felt morally wrong just because you're supposed to sell to everybody, right? And then just like you open the door and you can see that the person should be focusing on other things than paying for your pest control services. Yeah. I was like, this isn't for me. And then this kid that came down to work with us, some charismatic kid, he's like, yo man, let's just head up north, because we were in Sacramento, or like Folsom, right outside Sacramento. He said, let's go up north for the weekend. There's supposed to be a full solar eclipse, and of course the town that we went to view this solar eclipse was called Weed, California. It's not, yeah, dude, all the pot and stuff is pretty funny, pretty cliche, but we went up and watched this solar eclipse, and Weed is right next to the town of Shasta. And so we see this 14,000 foot peak, and these towns are at about 3,500 feet. So we're talking about over 10,000 feet of prominence. I mean, the way this thing loomed over us, I never felt anything like that. And to see it in the eclipse was just, it was, it was unlike anything I ever experienced before, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I don't even have the words for it, and I was like, do people climb that? I feel like I'm supposed to climb that. and looked into it. And of course, because mountaineering wasn't even on my radar, I didn't know that like it was a real thing. Of course, people climb it all the time. There's probably dozens of people going for it every single day. People ski it. But I went and did it. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And that was when that's when I was like 21. And then I ended up like living on the Pacific Crest Trail for a few months, like living in the High Sierra, and then did that again the next year. And then went out and did the Cascades again the next year. And it's just like, it's this kind of snowballed into spending more and more time in those big mountains as years have gone past.
Yeah. Speaking of, I guess, weed or drugs, is there some element of like chasing that it's like chasing that high, right? Of, well, I guess literally in mountains, but I feel some element of that too, where as a kid, I remember exploring in the woods, and I just remember feeling like we went for miles and miles, and we probably didn't. And the park where I run too, there's a certain section that reminds me of a kid when we would just go out and run and play. I feel like there's a big element of that in trail running.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's, when there's different ways you can get to being a faster athlete, in terms of running. It is about speed. And you can do it the John Kelly style. He's the guy that's won Barkley, I think, more than just about anyone else. He had the long trail FKT up in Vermont, very competitive.
Yeah.
Very, very great, stout resume in the ultra running world. He was like doing a startup company and trying to take care of a family, and he just basically ran on a treadmill every day for months and months on end, lots of hours on a treadmill. And I wonder how that felt for him, mentally, how much he enjoyed that part of the process, or if it was more of a goal-oriented thing for him, where he's like, he didn't enjoy the training, but he enjoyed the outcome. I'm not entirely sure, but I know for some people that works, and for others, they want to actually be in the mountains. It's like, not to say one's better than the other. It completely depends on how your mind works. And I'll fully admit, I need to be in the mountains. Every day is like an adventure. It's an exploration. It's getting fresh air, and it's getting fitter, and it's pushing, and it's getting training in, right? So that's the way I kind of go about it. And some people simply get the high from, you can get on a treadmill, you get the tunnel vision, you feel yourself pushing, it becomes like a meditative state where you're locked into your breathing, and you can have a really nice experience through that. I enjoy the outdoors because of the opportunity to put yourself, I guess, for a lack of better words, to put yourself in a riskier situation. Treadmills are fairly tame.
Yes.
You can fall off the back, or do something, jackass style. But yeah, there's something about going up a peak and doing a scramble and trying to keep tabs on the weather. That's just like all these risk factors, all these variables that I think raise your threshold, or they definitely can raise your threshold. And there's something special feeling for me and for others that I've talked to and had these experiences with, where you don't get the same feeling just playing it safe. You push yourself, and we're not even talking about necessarily physically, although it's not like, oh, I'll push my heart rate to 190 this time instead of 180, right? It's not necessarily that. It's more of a skill thing. It's more of a comfort thing, as far as, you manage risk, but you continue to push it a little bit more. And it goes for any sport. It could be skateboarding, biking, motocross, rock climbing. Like, in order to reach the next level of doing that trick that no one's ever done before, of pulling that huge move on the rock wall that few people can do, or getting to the top of a peak that a lot of people don't go to, it's all about taking that little risk, and you got to see if you can do it. And some things are safer than others. Now you have like foam pits and stuff that motocross athletes can do a triple backflip and land in a foam pit, and if they under or over rotate, they're not going to die. You don't get the same thing in the mountains, and perhaps that makes it even more exciting. I'm not sure. I'm not riding a motorbike into a foam pit, but anyways, the high is an option. It is a part of it, and people will experience it to different degrees, or maybe they don't go for it at all, and they just train because they want to lose weight, get faster. They're not really in it for the adrenaline or something. And that's what's kind of nice, is it's an outlet that can satisfy a lot of people in various ways. And for for me, I do enjoy a periodic high where I do get into a risky situation. That's a certain type of high. That's a real adrenaline high, right? Like you're about to get into a fight with someone, your adrenaline spikes, like you're not sure how it's going to turn out. There's risk there, right? It's a very particular feeling. And you try to balance the feeling of being not out of control, but knowing that you need to be extremely alert to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of fun books. I know I'm kind of just like ranting on here now, but there's some fun books that you can read. One of them is called Bone Games. And that's essentially the story of this guy trying to rediscover a high that they discovered almost accidentally. He goes into the mountains, a storm rolls in. He kind of loses his way. He doesn't know how to get back the way that he came. Whether it's not a good option now because of the weather. So he tries to take a different route. Gets cliffed out. Now he's stuck up there. It's snowing. He's going to die from hypothermia if he doesn't get out of there. And he ends up down climbing this like crazy route that he had no business down climbing. He doesn't even know how he did it. He just didn't even think. He just did it. And when he got back to the car, he was just in this crazy state of like, I just did that. There's no way I should have been able to do that. And this obviously incredible high and this new feeling like he really pushed his threshold, right?
Yeah.
This threshold has now been raised for what your ability is. And then like the rest of the book, he's just trying to rediscover it again. And funny thing is he's trying to do it like through marathon training on the road, right? Not too risky.
Yeah.
There's cars and stuff, but he ended up finding it again in the mountains, perhaps a place where there's more inherent risk.
Yeah.
Right. And there's other books that are along the lines of that, but yeah, there is a high out there if you want it. You just have to be, I think that for the most part, you have to be willing to push your comfort zone.
Yeah. And it's also like getting back in touch with nature and everything too, for like the trails in the mountains. Like I go for a run now and it's not just road, as you said, I have to worry about cars, but there's been like mountain lion signs around and pictures. And I'm like, that's pretty terrifying, but I'm still going to go out there and do it. And, you hear something fall and it's not like even, you still have like a little bit of fight flight, obviously a much more mild version of that too. I just watched
every chipmunk is a mountain lion before you see it.
Yeah.
Every chipmunk you hear, dude.
Yeah. I just saw Cocaine Bear too, so I think that'll trails. It wasn't a scary movie, it was funny, but I've run into bears all the time too, and like that's the kind of very, very basic adventure, but like the more in shape you are, I feel like the more the world kind of becomes a bit of a playground too, in that sense of things as well.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Absolutely. Yeah. That's when when I'm talking about mountain running and being fit and whatnot. One of the ways I almost always end it, the last thing I say is like, and it allows you to see more places. It allows you to get to more vistas. Yeah. It allows you to get up and down if a storm's rolling in, Yeah. It opens up, fitness absolutely opens up more doors for adventure.
I always see you've probably seen it living in the Northeast, but like this car climbed Mount Washington. And I always think, so fucking what? Like you pushed your foot down on the pedal. Congratulations. Like I want to like climb shit. I want to be like this person inside the car climbed Mount Washington. That stuff impresses me a lot more.
Dude, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I've kind of always got to chuckle at that. And then I try to think about my parents who aren't outdoorsy people at all, and there's so many places I would love to share with them that they'll never be able to. And so I think to myself, okay, something like driving up Pikes Peak or up Mount Washington is their threshold pushing, right? So it's all relative.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So you've been on the show quite a few times, but we've never really talked about your fitness background and how you found OCR. So how would you tell that story? How did you stumble upon the sport?
So like I said, I went up to Shasta when I was like 20, 21 years old and ended up going back to the mountains multiple times. However, during this entire time, for years, I still continued to smoke cigarettes. Like even when I lived on the Pacific Crest Trail, I was smoking a lot of tobacco. I was smoking weed. Even when I smoked so many cigarettes that this one guy I was with, when we ran out of papers to roll up our tobacco because we were rolling our own, we ended up using paper out of a Bible, smoking Bible paper. so I have the verses inside of me. It's like, straight up addicted, like got to have it. And I didn't really give that up until I was 20. I want to say I was 25. I was 24 or 25. So, and that ended a 7-year smoking habit. but I needed to replace it with something. I was like, okay, I'm going to stop this and really dive into actually like taking care of myself, because I had Lyme disease, I had concussions, I didn't want to grow old early in my life. I was like, okay, I need to make this change. So there was a really big changing point. It also had to do with my a sibling that had some trouble in their life with drug addiction. I was like, okay, I need to make sure I have control of my life. But they're doing great now. But like at the time, I lost a lot of friends to that. I was like, I need to take control. So quit cigarettes, blah, blah, blah. Got into just like going out and running, because I was bodybuilding a bunch at the time. And I started running 3 miles at a time. I would blow my calves up because wearing minimalist shoes. I'd have to recover for a few days. Then I would run 3 miles again. So I was running like 6 to 12 miles a week for months. And my calves were just kept blowing up. It kept blowing up. And at the time, I had no idea making the correlation between the shoes or whatever, right? Total absolute novice, a Bicedarian. And probably 2 years into that, I had a friend who did a Spartan race. It's like, dude, this is, you would enjoy this. I was like, all right, like I'll look into it. And there ended up being one, because I was living in New York. They had the one at Mountain Creek, New Jersey.
Yep.
And I thought, you know what? I'll sign up for this. This does look fun. And I signed up for the elite was either full, or I didn't think that I was at the level to be in the elite heat. But I signed up for the competitive heat on Sunday for the beast, and went through it, missed my spear, did the most beautiful 30 burpees you ever seen in your life. I had an absolute blast. And at the end I thought, I think I want to do that again. And then I looked at the times for the elites and mine, and I was like 30 minutes behind maybe Kempson or whoever won it that day.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a difference. It was the difference of like 2 hours, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 40 or something like that. I can't remember precisely, but I thought, I had fun. I didn't really push that hard. And there's definitely room for me to improve. So I thought, okay, I'll do it again. I went and did the tuxedo race a month or two later. Yeah, I think that was June. And went and did that, and I did elite this time. I got 5th. And I got 5th, behind like the Miraglias and like Ed Zabrowski and a couple people that were crushing all the regional races at that time. And at the end, all the guys were like, dude, who are you? Where'd you come from? You just started doing this? Like, holy shit. And then I was just hooked at that point. And that was 2017.
Good. I'm always glad to hear, and I say this every episode, I apologize if people are tired of hearing it, but like, it's always so good to hear how quickly people are accepted into the community. Like, most 99% of us only run open or like age group or whatever, but like, it's good to hear that the elites too also like want to engage and learn more about people. So what was it like being accepted into the OCR community that way?
Okay, first, when I went to the Mountain Creek one in April, that was my first Spartan race. I remember walking into that venue, and it was a nice warm day. And the cool thing about that venue is it is so close to the cities that it really brings a huge crowd. So there's always a really good showing at the Mountain Creek venue. I remember coming through the registration, getting to their side and looking around, just seeing so many shirtless dudes and chicks in sports bras, and thinking, this is the fittest group of people I've ever seen in my life. 6-packs everywhere. Everyone's trimmed up. I was like, holy shit. As mind blown. Like, there's so many freaking fit people. Because where I grew up, my town is mostly slightly older, middle class, people that worked in tech. There's not really a big athlete community. There's a good amount of overweight people. And so this was like, holy shit, man, look at all this.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like having a great time and being super cool. And then, going through the race, everyone was just cheering. And it just seemed super supportive. And at that point, I hadn't done a lot of races, so I didn't really know the differences between, say, a typical trail race versus like a road race versus obstacle course racing. However, as time's gone by, and I have done plenty of ultras, plenty of local road races, plenty of obstacle course races, I can say that the OCR race community is the least pretentious of all of them. And they're just the most open, like the most fun. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're on a playground ultimately, right? So everyone's having a really good time. And it just felt really freaking good, man. It's probably a big reason why I was so excited to stay in it. I mean, if I crossed the finish line and no one gave a shit, no one talked to me, I probably would have been like, okay, I mean, this is fun. But the fact that everyone was so open and we were having a good time immediately, like we were all homies, that's definitely something that I was craving. feeling a sense of community for sure. Because I used to be, I used to smoke cigarettes, I smoked a lot of pot. That whole friend group, who I'm so grateful for all that time, we just sat around, smoked, and played video games, and like maybe played some music, and it was a great part of my life, and I appreciated it. But yeah, we were sitting around. We were just like sitting around.
Yeah.
And so when I stopped doing that and I started getting active, that friend group naturally just like totally cut off, right? Because it turns out what we had common and most in common was that we just like to smoke weed and lament on life.
Yeah.
And then go do our blue collar job, right? It's like it was enough, but it wasn't anything that was particularly uplifting. So it was nice to be able to step away from that and immediately basically have this new supportive fun group of people.
Yeah. I try to tell that I'm part of a local running group, and I try to explain that to them too, where 5Ks and a lot of road races are pretty isolating. Like you put on your headphones, you run, you try to PR if that's what you're into, and you run your race, you finish the race, then you kind of go home. But I don't think I've ever done an OCR where I started by myself that I've actually like ended by myself. You're always meeting people, you're always talking to people. It's just so much more social. And as an introvert, sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but it's really great how like awesome the community is. And yeah, I'm always trying to get more people off the roads onto trails, because even trail running is more, especially ultras, like you're always meeting people, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, part of that's probably the nature thing. I wonder if just naturally nature makes you feel a little bit better when you're going past more trees instead of, signposts and pavement.
Yeah.
But also, you know what? I wonder if a lot of people are extra happy and feel good at these OCR races because the nature of the obstacles, it has all of them pushing their threshold more than running. Going back to that whole like the adrenaline thing, the raising of your own threshold, the increasing of your feeling of confidence. Perhaps that is tenfold in OCR what it is when you're just trying to run on a road.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair too. And it's safe to say like now you're predominantly more ultra and trail than OCR. But what keeps you? Because we'll get into it in a bit, but you still dabble once in a while. What keeps you involved in OCR? What keeps you coming back after all these years?
So, I mean, ultimately, it is fun, man.
Yeah.
I love it's really fun to play around on obstacles. It really is. I have all this upper body mass as well. That is rather difficult to get rid of. I've had a pull-up bar since I was 9 years old. I'm not going to ever not be able to do, a huge set of pull-ups, like even if I don't touch it. So it's there, and I'll put it to use, right? Also, nothing wrong with a little bit of prize money, and of course the community. It's fun to be involved. Actually, this year it's been really nice. I've tried to be more involved with the community. So in various ways. So for example, earlier on in the season, I went to the Broken Arrow Sky Race, which was a 46K, which was essentially a marathon. It's funny. It used to be a 50K, which was an ultra. Yeah. And now they've shortened it. It's a trail marathon with 8,000 feet of climbing up at altitude. And it's amazing. Our guy, Steve Hammond, Trailmaster Hammond, he puts the courses together over there. Abby and I went out, we hung out with him for a couple of weeks. It was an awesome time. And I ended up filming the day before and the day after my race. And so that was nice to contribute, right? To help bring, I like the idea of bringing the images to people because I get a lot of watching on YouTube. It's inspiring to me. It's fun. It's something to watch on the treadmill. I'm like, I want to help provide that image. Yeah. So I went out and I filmed. And then I did the same thing for Mammoth Trail Fest, which was 2 weeks before OCRWC. I rabbited. And then for what's it called? For OCRWC, I helped out with Woody and Caleb Rounds. I helped them mark the course and kind of make some decisions around the 3K course when we were trying to figure out how to make some corrections on the mountain. And it was cool to see the behind the scenes of how that stuff comes together, to see the passion and the hard work and the crazy hours that the on-site crew actually puts in. Right. That a lot of respect for them. Really awesome to just kind of be around that and be a part of that. And then rabbiting for the OCR report at those events was really nice. So it was really fun being a part of the community there. And perhaps in my future, there's some greater level of involvement. I don't know what that looks like, but I do enjoy the behind the scenes. And being in the mountains and being able to compete in the mountains has done a lot for my life. And I like the idea of trying to improve the product for everyone else in some form or another. So doing those races and going to OCR, it's good to see how those different organizations are putting things together. So I appreciate that variety as well. So I will probably continue to try to be more involved with OCR and putting those things together, because that's even more of an operation, right, than a typical trail race. I mean, they have to actually put out obstacles, move around. So I kind of want to learn a little bit more about that, just for the sake of knowing and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think that's huge. A lot of people love to sit back and complain, sometimes rightfully so, but people don't appreciate the amount of work that goes into putting on these events. Like, oh, you mark out a trail, you build obstacles, and there you go. But like, being there, what are some things that you noticed like firsthand that like you didn't realize were things that were more difficult than you would have expected?
Probably first and foremost is when they put the course together, because ultimately most of the complaints are usually about the course itself, the physical course product. Okay. When, especially on the West Coast, where there's more limitations on the land that you can go on due to land conservation, trying to just, not destroy the ground brush or the trees. Like there's a lot of forest fires out there, right? So they're even more particular about being able to save the live growth. And, it's good for erosion and all that other stuff. But for whatever other reasons, there's a lot of limitations on where you can actually put a course. And so, for example, on Mammoth Ski Mountain, the places where the actual ski slopes are, or the service roads are, those are the spots that they're allowed to go. The non-touched, the undisturbed land between, say, a slope and a mountain bike trail, even if it's only 10 feet wide, it's undisturbed. You can't touch it. So instead of cutting across it and doing 10 feet, now we have to figure out how to go 200 meters plus around it, right? And when you're looking at it on Google Maps, because that's how they kind of create the course ahead of time, is they create on Google Maps, they draw all these lines. That's someone on a computer that's never set foot there. Then the build crew goes there and they set foot and they have to look at it and realize, like, okay, here's what's different in person than what we saw on Google Maps. And here are some of the changes that we need to make. And so just seeing how they navigated that was a really big thing, because ultimately, it was supposed to be a 3K, and we either would have had a 3K that would have skipped a couple obstacles and would have had zero fast running because it would have cut across the slope, or we had an opportunity to increase it up to about 3.7 or 3.8K, obviously a bit longer, adding on several minutes for most of the runners. But by doing that, we were able to incorporate about a kilometer of nicer running, faster running, as well as more obstacles. So trying to understand where those compromises are to be made, and making those decisions and trying to figure out what will the athletes appreciate most. And I told him, I'm like, hey man, I'm here. I can be the scapegoat. I don't officially work for you guys. So if I tell you that I think you should make it longer in order to be able to incorporate drop zone and hurdles, I think that it's important to have those obstacles, or else you're going to have over a kilometer without obstacles. It'll be pure running. And then if you don't put it on the road, then it's just going to be sloppy, soft terrain for the whole thing. Whereas if you add in this section of road running, now you're giving the faster runners to make up for the more technical stuff early on. So it's a better blend of a course for multiple runners. So just trying to figure out the decisions, their priorities, and how they navigate it. They ended up making changes with the sandbag, and I'll tell you what, something that was really cool, talking about how hard these guys work. They were supposed to put in, this is for the 15K, there was supposed to be canyon, which are monkey rings that kind of go down and then back up. And due to the slope, again, on Google Maps, you can only tell so much, but on site, it was just too much of a gradient, and they couldn't get the obstacle level enough to be stable and secure. So they ended up not putting it in. And to make up for that, they built hanging walls, which either didn't show up on the truck or weren't going to be in there in the first place. But at 11 p.m., because I was hanging out late there one of those nights, I could hear the drills in the distance, and I went over to check it out. They were building hanging walls in the parking lot into the wee hours of the morning, the night before the 15K. Interesting. So they stayed up late, man, and then they took those things to the top of the mountain and constructed it and put that together, hours before the race went off. And it was, to me, that was really meaningful, and their dedication to providing a better product and going and depriving themselves of sleep to get things done and doing it with a smile on their face, by the way. Like they're having a great time. Yeah.
I wondered that specifically about the hanging walls too, because I think Jason, when he was commentating that, it's like, oh, I'm surprised like they weren't painted or anything. But like little do 99.9% of people know there was a lot of shit that went behind that. And I think I forget the actual term for it, but the people that know the least tend to complain the most and think that they're experts. So I'm glad that you touched on that a little bit, that it's very difficult to put on these events, and we should be, give feedback, but be very appreciative in understanding that you don't know the whole process, right?
Yes, there's a lot of back and forth and decision making and tough decisions that are made behind the scenes because, at the end of the day, it is a multi-tiered organism, and you have people that are making decisions from a table, and then you have people that need to try and work with and around or change those decisions on site. And so, things do change, but they care. The people on site do care and are trying.
And then keeping with, paying it forward and everything, saying that you enjoy watching content, whether it be live streams or this and that, and just making the step to rabbit. I know you've rabbited at Stratton, always doing what you can to kind of pay it forward, but do you think there's a little bit of a magic sauce there? I know that it was Tyler Veerman who rabbited for the 3K one year and won the 15K. I know the OCR report put a post on it after I was thinking this, but do you think there's like a little bit of advantage there? Like, is it a good like shakeout run for you, or like?
I think I can share and say yes because I feel like I have enough of a foot in the door where they'll take me before someone else. But I think that there is, in the sense that, and now it's not for everybody. I think you need to have a good level of fitness in order for it to not take enough out of you. Obviously, if you want to do the best as possible at the 15K, you should go in pretty gosh darn fresh. For me personally, I do better to do a little bit of intensity the day before. So I kind of get in a little bit of intensity. I get a feel for the inclines of the mountain. I get to produce some lactate and get my heart rate up and just move some blood around. And it gets me feeling a little bit more awake for the next day. Simultaneously, I get to see some of the obstacles, maybe see some of the techniques that some of the guys use on it. I get to feel out their paces for any people that I'm going to be competing with the next day. So for sure, there's a little bit of tactic there.
Yeah. I just thought that was really cool. I'm like, that has to be more than a coincidence. And you just get like, as you said, like a good feel of the venue. And since you've been there before too, is that something that played a role in you wanting to take on this event? Like, how long have you known that you've been wanting to take this event on? Because we talked about before how you were kind of very secretive about it at first, but you're registering.
Yeah, actually, it was kind of like, oh, I think I'll do that. It was actually kind of unplanned, and it was a total like C-B race. I didn't really care that much. Like, so I went in through most of the year. I did a Lula, which apparently was a qualifier, which I didn't even realize.
I didn't realize.
And kind of went through the year, and then Abby and I planned to go to Mammoth Trail Fest because we kind of plan a lot of our races together. She went and did the BK. Both of us did the 26K, and that was, it was in Mammoth. And then on the calendar, I realized, WC is 2 weeks later. I'm just gonna stay there. And then I found out that Alula was a qualifier. I'm like, I'm right there. I'll just hang out for 2 weeks. Like it just totally made sense. So honestly, it just worked in the calendar like really well.
Good. That's awesome.
And training went well all year. I'm training mostly for the Grand Canyon in I got 5 or 6 weeks now before I do it. That's the nice thing about FKTs is you can choose the date you do it. So I'll give myself a little 12-day wiggle window depending on weather and how I'm feeling. But these are just like workouts on the way there. So I didn't feel a lot of pressure, which can be nice. I was like, hey, I'm just going to run like hella hard today. And, it's a good training run.
And then what did you think about, you spoke very highly about the venue itself. That mountain was gorgeous.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm really glad that I got to spend, because when you're running super hard, it can be kind of difficult to look around you. So I'm glad that I could actually run the course several days prior and be able to look my head in either direction without tripping and see all of the fantastic stuff around me. And it's a bit nostalgic for me as well because it's in the High Sierra, and the John Muir Trail is right there. The Pacific Crest Trail is right there. That's where like I said, I lived on the Pacific Crest Trail for 3 months. I've done the John Muir Trail multiple times, and it's these massive jagged peaks, and it just feels so freeing being out there, and it's just so gorgeous. And I can't recommend Mammoth highly enough. If you're a sea level person, the altitude might not feel great for a little bit, but between the lakes, the high peaks, the phenomenal trails for both running, mountain biking, gravel riding, there's hot springs. There's a lot there. It's a very cool spot, both for summertime and for winter, because obviously the skiing.
Yeah, it sounded like everyone that went there loved the venue, but people seemed a little deterred. I don't know if it was the travel needed to go to the venue, or the fact there was that elevation. What did you think about like the turnout for like the just everybody there?
So that's one of the cool things about obstacle course racing that I found, is that there's almost no correlation between the amount of people that are there and the level of excitement, the level of stoke. So it was a lighter turnout than I had expected or seen in the past, but I can't say that the level of excitement was really any less. People are traveling from all these different countries, and they're very passionate, and they're having a great time. And for them, it's not just a race; it's a whole experience. They've traveled. They're in this new beautiful place. Like, it's a whole thing. So I think that the location might have been a little bit far from a major airport. I think Reno was about 4 hours away, as was Los Angeles. So you obviously have to rent a car and all that. Yeah. Whereas, say, I guess Stratton was pretty far too, but maybe a little closer to Boston. I don't know. The altitude probably had a lot to do with it, I imagine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the altitude scares me as someone that, like, I'm not looking to compete or anything out there, but with like my history of asthma and this and that, I'm like, it sounds really scary to be up on there trying to like follow people around. But it did seem like a beautiful course, though.
It was, and I'm very glad that I went, and I hope most people had a good time there. I thought it did have good variety. It's interesting because being from the East Coast, I am more of a technical runner.
Right.
People say I'm a fast downhiller. What they really mean is I'm a fast technical downhiller. Like, for example, Eugenio he blew me away with the runnable downhills, just so pure speed, just unbelievably fast. But the course did have a nice blend of runnability and some technical stuff. A little more runnable than technical, but still, there was a blend there.
Yeah.
And again, I thought it was there was great weather, great scenery. I thought it was beautiful personally. So they're gonna be having it on the East Coast in 2026.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes too. I'm hoping more Europeans and stuff come over too. But yeah, it should be really interesting. But you mentioned Eugenio. Let's get right into the 5K, the 15K. What was it like? How did you feel in the start line? I guess let's start there.
I was like, I'm gonna fucking kill everybody. I was super chill. I was like, yeah, man, this is just a training race, and I didn't really have a lot of pressure on me. I had seen Eugenio run the day before. I had seen all the other guys run the day before, and I'm like, no one's as good at the altitude or as strong of a climber as I am right now, except maybe Eugenio. But I knew that his obstacle game wasn't as great, so I figured I might have a battle with him, but I wasn't sure how things would look over the course of the 15K, because in the 3K he was leading by a pretty good amount, but then he got hung up on Gibbons, and then Leon was able to pass him there and float through the obstacles at a greater speed than him. So I wasn't sure, but how did I feel? Super good. The only thing that was weird was that morning I peed like a dozen times, and I was like, something feels off. Like, something feels a little bit off. I wasn't too nervous about it, but I could kind of tell right off the bat, like, I might have an electrolyte problem today, which did actually end up being the case. And I ended up having some full body cramps. And that's how you know, by the way, if it's an electrolyte thing versus like a local muscle thing. If you're running up a hill real hard and your calf starts to cramp, might be because you don't run up steep hills hard enough, often enough. But if it's your calves, your quads, and your biceps and triceps and lats all at the same time, probably an electrolyte thing, if you're only 30 minutes into a race. So unfortunately that was me, and I just wasn't entirely sure how to rectify it. I'm like, do I need more salt? Do I need more water? Trying to take in both can kind of be tough sometimes. But
around when did that hit you on the course?
Dude, I felt my biceps twinge on the first obstacle. I felt them twinge on trapeze. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but like, whatever. Legs feel pretty good. And then my calf didn't start to like tweak out until mile 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And but the first, I don't know if you saw the video, but Eugenio and I had really fun back and forth for the first half of that race, for the first 5 miles or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would power up the inclines faster than me, and then I would maybe do a downhill a little faster, get across an obstacle a little faster, and then he would catch up. Yeah, it was super duper fun. It was super fun.
I did watch that, and I was wondering too, like early on in the course too, when you're back and forth with him. I don't know. Well, we'll get to this later, but like how great his English was. But like, do you talk to him at all? Like, what do you typically do if you're kind of back and forth with the racer? Like, do you try to get in his head? Like, what's your style of?
No, nothing at all. And honestly, that kind of made it a little bit more fun. The fact that we couldn't talk to each other, all we could do was express through body language, through our physicality. And about at the 1.5 mile mark, approximately, that really steep hill, as Leon called it, the hill of destiny or the climb of destiny, super steep climb. And I went up that, and he powered up behind me pretty quickly. His uphill running was phenomenal. And he got next to me, and he said, "Ya habla español?" And I was like, "No." And I patted him on the back, and I was like, I just like gave him a thumbs up. I don't know. And then, yeah, so we didn't talk for the whole race. We couldn't communicate, but we would just kind of surge back and forth.
It was also interesting too, like his style of racing. From what I was able to see, it seemed like it was very quick and then walking, and then very quick and then walking. Why do you think he went about that kind of style?
His skill is in running very fast. I think that he was an 800-meter runner, so it would make sense that he's both good aerobically and anaerobically. Yeah, the 800-meter is kind of that special distance where you kind of both anaerobic and aerobic qualities, and you just have a lot of power. And perhaps his style of training has been very much interval style, and he's also not seemingly as good at the obstacles right now. And so he was exercising his strengths by running very fast as a very good 800-meter runner, and then resting so he could complete the obstacles a little bit better. So yeah, he was just operating within his realm of strength and weaknesses.
Yeah. And then when he started to gain a little bit more on you too, towards the end of the course, like, were you feeling more like you were chasing first or running from third? Like, what was going through your mind at that point?
I can say that I never felt like I was running from third. Okay. When we went out, I was like I said, on the starting line. And it's funny when I say, I'll kill everybody. It's just like it's a joke that there's this UFC fighter. I don't know if he's Russian or from like Dagestan or whatever, but he grabs the microphone at the end of a fight, and he's been like undefeated and just had a dominant performance. He's like, "Bring anybody here! I kill everybody!" It's funny, but at the same time, it's the attitude of, "Oh, there's no way anyone's going to defeat me whatsoever." So I think that mindset just has a huge role in your actual performance in a race. Having a positive mindset, it literally like reduces your perceived effort. It makes effort feel good. You're like, "Oh fuck yeah!" Not like, "Oh, this sucks. I just can't wait for it to be over. I hope no one catches me." Right? They're totally, one's very empowering and one's not quite there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So I went in thinking like, I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm gonna make a huge gap. This is as early as possible, because I usually race really conservatively, and where I'm like a back half racer. I was like, I'm just gonna snap the ties between me and everyone behind me early on, and it just happened to be that like Eugenio and I did that together and kind of had fun doing that together. It wasn't until about mile 4.5 where he caught up to me after a grouping of obstacles. It was like the Force 5 over under, the monkey range, like the multi-rig, and Tyrolean traverse, pendulum. There's a grouping of obstacles there, and I got off of them like way ahead of him, like 40 seconds ahead of him. Made a good gap, and then, dude, like a mile later, he got on my heels. I was like, "Holy shit, dude!" Like that was really impressive. And then that's when I knew, like, okay, he's a serious runner. I'm gonna really have to send it downhill and hope that the gauntlet goes well. And so we were running. We ran together for a few minutes before I felt like, you know what? Maybe I feel like maybe I'm leading. I wonder what kind of pace he'll take it if he leads. So I literally like made room for him and like gave him the signal to go past me so that he could lead, right? Kind of like taking turns.
Yeah.
And he ended up picking the pace up probably like 5+%, putting on a little surge. And I was like, okay. And I started to go. And then my calf twinged. And I was like, okay, back up a little bit and just keep eyes on him. Yeah. And just at that point, I started to feel the cramps. I was like, okay, well, we'll just try not to atrophy too much. And we'll just try to keep him relatively close and make a move when it feels right, if it feels right. got up to the sandbag, and he had about 90 seconds on me at that point. So
Yeah.
he ran those next 2 miles each, 40 plus seconds faster than me. So that was really awesome. And yeah, I wasn't worried about the people behind me really. I was like, oh, I'll just try and keep him close,
Explain the importance of line of sight too, because that's not something that you see again in road races or anything, but like in OCRs, it's very, for a lot of athletes, it's crucial. How important is that to you to be able to keep your eyes on them?
Well, yeah. I mean, imagine you're a cheetah chasing an impala. You have to know where the fuck to go. If you don't see the impala, you're like, I don't know, it's out here somewhere.
Yeah.
But when you see it, something happened on just like a primal level where you can really feel that attack mode. There's something there psychologically in seeing your prey, if you will.
Yeah. No, definitely. I know that like towards the end of like a trail race or something like that, if I see someone in front of me, especially towards the end, like I'm going to kill them. I'm going to pass them. Like that's going to happen. Whereas if I'm kind of off by my own, I'm less motivated to push too. So I definitely think that's important competitively or, just someone like me.
Totally. Right. And it's just the game we're playing. We're not out there chasing our dinner down and, trying to kill it and eat it right there. So this is our version, our friendly, humane, gamified version of that.
Yeah.
That's what competition is.
And then what did you think about the obstacles that they had there for the course?
I enjoyed them all. Again, this has to do with the limitations of the course and where they could put stuff, where they could fit stuff. I feel like they could have some more challenging sequences.
Okay.
I felt like, and I'm talking to other people, they also agreed that although obviously it's grip intensive, far more so than Spartan, it wasn't as grip intensive as previous OCR NORAMs and WC has been. And that's not necessarily the obstacles, although there were a few that were more taxing in the past. For example, drop zone, or not drop zone. I can't remember. It's you jump on the walls and then there's like a net at the end. And this year they had monkey bars instead of a net. The net is typically way harder on the hands, at the grip. And then they had obstacles in the past called like gaff.
Yes.
They had there have been some more challenging ones, but perhaps even more so than that, it's the sequence. For example, this year they had Gibbons before they had Skull Valley and before they had Turquoise and all that, whereas in previous years they would put Gibbons at the end of that sequence when you're already tired, right? And that's just like, that can be devastating. And also, I mean, I guess on the East Coast things are also wetter, so it was dry out there. That probably had a good amount to do with it. But I would say the obstacles were great. Obviously we don't mind having a few more maybe, but that's just me.
Good. Yeah. I know that when I was watching it too, and you were very clear on the running public last year that you've bulletproofed your shoulder, but watching you do like drop zone and those kind of obstacles with like the lache, the heavy impact on the shoulder, it still made me nervous. I knew how well you did before I watched it, but even still, like how did your shoulder hold up?
Oh, it was great. Yeah. I've just, at this point it's been about 3 years on the dot, so I've done quite a bit of rehab, quite a bit of strengthening, and quite a bit of relearning with what my shoulder does and does not like. I won't do big externally rotated laches, but basically anything's a go if it's like tight and close and right there. I can swing on it, not a huge deal. Just got to keep the shoulder sucked in consciously a little bit more. So yeah, I'm very happy about that, especially since I did that without surgery. Maybe surgery would have expedited the process quite a bit, but I'm glad it feels like empowering to have done that on my own.
Right. And then I guess since it was 3 years ago, just briefly explain like what happened in Tahoe to you.
Yeah, having a great race at the Tahoe North American Championship. Monkey bars right after the sandbag, approximately 4 miles in, like right before the downhill, right before I was about to like make my move. I thought, and it was really silly. There's a saying, don't do anything new on race day. That doesn't just go for nutrition or gear, but that should also go for tactics.
Good point.
I let the tactics one go, and I got a little confident and excited and thought, oh, there's no one directly behind me. I got a camera right in front of me. Let me just like float through this. And I did a big one-arm lache between monkey bars. And when I did that lache, I like reached my arm out just a little bit too much and kind of let my shoulder joint get a little bit relaxed instead of like keeping it in tight. And I hadn't really practiced doing that. And with the way I like came down on it, it just hold, right out.
Yeah.
And as I swung on it, I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good, because my joint wasn't in the shoulder. I was just like tugging entirely on the muscles. The joint wasn't really, the skeleton wasn't really holding my weight. My muscles entirely were, and it was extremely damaging. I managed to like swing off of the thing, and as soon as I hit the ground, there's just an immense amount of like pain and weird nerve feeling. Like, if anyone that's had a dislocation knows it's like such an odd feeling. It's like you're being electrocuted. It's unlike any pain you ever felt. It's just like a weird, really uncomfortable sensation. And so since I had never had that happen before, I just figured, oh, that's a dislocated shoulder. And it was. And I ended up kind of moving it around a little bit, trying to figure out how the hell to get it back in there. Because I'm like, I'm still having a good race. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm still in it, man. And I got it back in, and it was just achy and numb after that. And I just tried to run with a slightly modified gait, keeping my shoulder tight, and just kind of kept going. I'm like, it's not over till it's over, you know? And then it popped out. I kept it in close, although it was still hurting as I was doing other obstacles, because just like my intuition said, I keep the shoulder close to my body, my arm close to my body. So I just changed how I was doing obstacles. But then when I got to Olympus, anyone knows Olympus, you're moving laterally. You have to reach out in some way or another. I didn't know what was better, to lead with the right or lead with the left. I always led with the left. I was like, maybe that one's better. I don't know if either one would have been better, but yeah, like literally 3/4 of the way across, a move away from the bell, after having passed on, held back, and I was in third place. My shoulder came out again, and it was just so bad. It hurt so much. I'm like trying to get it back in, and then Angel passed me, and I was about to walk off course. I forget who it was, like Mike Morris or something. I don't remember, but we were about to go walk to the med tent, and we started to take a few steps, and I just like leaned my body forward like a little bit, and it just like I felt it kind of go back in. I was like, I think it's good. I think I'll go try burpees. And he's like, yeah? I'm like, yeah, can I? He said, yeah, dude. So I went over and I busted out, more or less some one-arm burpees, did a rope climb with basically just my legs. And I was able to cross the finish line. There was enough carnage at the tire flip, between all the other guys, that the fact that the burpees took me, 4 minutes, didn't kick me out of fourth place. So I was able to finish there. So it was a good time, a good painful time. good memory.
And as I remember too, like you were like saving a lot for like the back half of the course, so it seemed like you had a lot more in you. But again, as you said too, like shoulder injury, that just affects obstacles. But running too, I imagine it's not a pleasant experience as you're jostling downhill.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, the arm swing was definitely compromised, and the impact of it. Oh man, yeah, it was. Didn't feel great. Fortunately, you have a lot of adrenaline, and that helps. But man, when the adrenaline wore off that night, I was in a large amount of pain. Sleeping was very difficult.
Yeah. So I know that there's the physical recovery of it, but as you mentioned too, like the kind of mental and like body awareness aspect of it too. So how long did it take you to not just physically heal, but be able to like trust your shoulder again?
I mean, trust was stages. It's not like one day I was like, I trust it entirely. It was just building up. The trust was directly in proportion to the tests I would put it through and the confidence I would build in that particular movement. I started out with isometrics, so the movement itself actually irritated the joint. So just like really hard isometrics, kind of pushing the elbow against the wall, back against the wall, forward into the wall, and trying to do planks. And then probably after a month and a half, I could finally raise my arm above the front of my body.
Oh, wow.
Because I couldn't even raise it overhead for over a month. And then I would do like Australian pull-ups, which is like a pull-up but down under, and straight arm planks. And again, mostly isometrics, right? And I don't think I hung from a bar for like 2.5 months. Or no, wait, I'm lying to you. The race was in September. I still wanted to do WTM in November. So no, I was doing some hangs and pull-ups probably a month and a half later, but they were painful and I couldn't hang entirely. In other words, I couldn't like do a dead hang.
Yeah.
Right. I couldn't totally rest all of my weight basically on my tissues. And that was painful. So in other words, I could only do a flexed arm hang, right? A flexed arm hang where my shoulder was not only in a slightly extended and not fully like flexed position, but all my muscles were tense, right? So kind of worked. And also my arm had to be like close to my body. So that's why I went into WTM thinking like, okay, well, we'll try it. Although I didn't have a lot of confidence, which is why I just went for the sprint lap and then just ran until they opened up, King of the Swingers and all this other shit. And then I was like, all right, guys, I'm out. But in terms of being able to hang, there was one day, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, where I was able to do a full dead hang. I was like, oh my gosh, it feels so good. Oh my God. It's like a stretch that you haven't been able to do in forever, right? That stretch in the lats and stuff. And oh my God, it felt so good. And I was so happy. And just steadily up from there, man. I probably didn't do a lache, a 2-armed lache for a full year. And it was a small lache, very conservative. And that made me sore for sure. But yeah, just continuing to build. It's unfortunate. There's certain moves like Turkish get-ups I can't do. It sucks. I love Turkish get-ups, but I'm having difficulty doing that still. So like that's something that's still kind of been off the table for me. So that's just the way it is.
Yeah, because I think of Nicole Miracle when she had her injury, and she still has a little bit of worries with the dismount, which is fair. I'm sure that was traumatizing with the way that she fell in Hildervat. And also to some extent, I saw the video of Leon, who was hanging out by your van too. And, he had his thigh, like he had a terrible injury too. And he said he was able to run downhill, but he was like afraid of it too. So it's just the trust in your body and all that's going to be built back up again.
Yeah, it makes sense that you would have a little bit of apprehension.
Yeah.
And you have like a little bit of tension in your body as you're doing the thing. Yeah, there's definitely a low level of nervousness, but hopefully, for all of us that have those injuries, that melts away over time. You continue to build that confidence and comfort.
Right. Going back to OCRWC one more time, the Fit Fighter carry. So I know we talked about this offline a little bit too, but explain what happened there. I saw that you picked up one, and I had always remembered it being two, but you picked up two, and then you dropped one, and then you stopped and you looked back again. So give some context. What the hell happened there?
Yeah, it was funny not having audio for that. It was most people thought I picked up two. I was only supposed to pick up one, and then I was an asshole for just like dropping it and being like, yeah, you take care of it. What actually happened was I had gotten there about 90 seconds after you hit and I grabbed two of them and started to run, and then someone said, wait, you're only supposed to have one. I said, no, you need to have two. And it's like, well, he only has one. I'm like, what? Yeah, the guy in front of you only has one. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And then they're like, well, should we make him do a second lap? I'm like, he doesn't speak any English. He won't understand what you're saying or why you're making him do that. It's like, I guess he should have known the rules, but simultaneously, I don't know, like just make a decision, And they're like, just go. We'll make everyone do one. I was like, okay,
That's a good on the fly decision. Yeah.
So yeah. And so from that point, everyone just carried one to make it fair, because I didn't think it was. I don't know. I felt bad making him run an entire second lap and him having no idea, because no one can communicate in Spanish. Like he would have no idea why they're making him do it.
Right.
It's like, I don't know, man.
That's
whatever. Yeah.
And that's something that I love about OCRWC too, is like if something goes wrong, like they usually get fixed pretty quickly. And I feel like that didn't have much of too big of an impact, which was good to see. But it was funny watching it too. I'm like, what the hell happened there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they just could have done a better job telling the volunteer. I mean, even if you can't say, if you don't speak Spanish, you can still go like two. And if someone picks up one, you'd be like, hey. And the person, everyone understands that. It means like, something's up. And you can just go like that, So volunteer could have known better. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the race at all, but.
It made it interesting to watch. And then what was your decision to wear gloves? Because a lot of people are like anti-gloves. So what went into that decision too? Because it looked like you were racing with gloves.
Oh, dude, there are more people with tape around their bloody, torn up hands than I've ever seen in my life. Some people take pride of it. Other people just didn't expect it. Some people just don't think about gloves. I'm like, why the hell not? So I did expect a couple more rope obstacles. I was expecting maybe it's called Triumph. I expected that to have a net. And I thought that there might be a couple more rope obstacles. And if I lachade, when you lachade, if you grab a little bit high and rotate under, it can peel your calluses up if you don't get if you don't get the proper grip on it. I was like, well, I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, the gloves aren't gonna take away from anything. I didn't wear them for the grip. I wore them to just keep my hands super fresh, keep these sweet little puppies soft.
And you weren't getting like muddy or anything either out there too. Like
nada. Yeah. Oh yeah. Those gloves suck when they are wet. They're like football receiver gloves. Yeah. If they get wet, they're no bueno, but I knew it's dry as could be out there.
Yeah, because I've realized I have a decent pain tolerance with everything except for ripping my hands. I rip my hands and I turn into the biggest baby, and OCRWC is like always the place for that too. And so I never
And
fully
dude,
commit
and
when
how
I should.
inconvenient is that? It's like they're your hands. You do everything with them. You
Everything.
know, it's like that's going to bother you for potentially weeks. You know, it can open you up to infection or something. And yeah, if you're racing back-to-back days, gosh, man, if you open them up on the 3K and then you got to go do the 15K again, come on, you're getting blood on our obstacles.
Yeah.
Chill out.
And then the shower off after is always terrible too. But yeah, I always felt myself like I probably could do this obstacle, but I have the whole rest of the weekend. I don't want to rip my hand. So yeah, just putting it out there that gloves aren't always bad. It's a tool and there's a time and a place for them. So yeah, no good.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't feel like I need to prove my manlyhood by not wearing gloves. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then so what else do you have planned for the rest of the year now? Anything? Well, you talked about the Grand Canyon. Is that going to be like rim to rim, or what's the FKT you're going for?
Yeah, that'll be my opus for the year. That'll be rim to rim to rim. So
Okay.
one way across the canyon is about 22 miles, and one side of the canyon is a bit higher than the other. So from south to north, I want to say it's around 6,000 feet, and then north to south is closer to 5,000 feet. So when you
Okay.
do rim to rim to rim, you end up
Yeah.
with 44 miles and 11,000 feet of gain, and that's it's basically you go down, you go up, you go down, you go up.
Mhm.
And it's very hot in there. It's very runnable. It's a very fast course. And so it's been requiring me to focus more on my weaknesses, which are just pure running economy, speed, marathon, like marathon sort of fitness. My climbing and descending is good, but just that kind of more monotonous, slightly flatter, steady, fast running has been my weakness. And also, man, it's a proving ground. That's where the Cowboys are at, the Coconino Cowboys, or at least what they used to be. Jim Walmsley and that whole crew. It's been a lot of really big names that have put some times down in there. So I just want to go throw a time down, see what we get. Jim Walmsley has the supported record at a bit under 6 hours. So people were handing him food and water. He didn't have to stop for filling water bottles, even to carry extra stuff, because things weigh you down. Whereas Lars Arneson, our boy from Alaska, that's had some great races in OCR, he has the unsupported record in the Grand Canyon at 6 hours, 38 minutes and some odd seconds. So you got to stop for your water. You got to carry more nutrition, but no pacers, no support crew.
Can you leave like caches behind for unsupported? What's the rules on that?
I actually, someone else mentioned that. I'm going to have to go. So if I actually went down there ahead of time, say I was going to race on Saturday and, Thursday, I go down there and I leave some stuff for me, then you would call that self-supported.
Okay.
Because I set stuff up ahead of time. However, I do think that the rules with unsupported is you need to start and finish with all of your stuff.
Gotcha.
And I think that means I could run down with a bunch of stuff. I could drop some stuff at the halfway mark, run up to the North Rim, come back down, get that stuff and run back. And that fits within the rules that are set because I started and finished with the same amount of stuff, right? With all the same stuff. So I think that's allowed, but I will be double checking on that. Otherwise, unless there's any issues with the pipes down there, because sometimes they turn water on and off, all the time, depending on if a pipe broke or whatever, if there's maintenance going on. If all the water is turned on, then should be it's going to be a go. It should be a good time. If they turn the water off, I'll see if I can figure out where to filter water, because that's going to add a significant amount of time. But we'll see if I still go for it or if I choose to do something else or just save the mojo for the springtime.
Yeah. And then speaking of FKTs, speak a little bit about what it was like to support DJ Fox on his multi-100-mile trek. How was that experience too?
Dude, it was epic, man. It's kind of fun. So I enjoy stepping into a leadership role like that, where you can't not be there for the person, right? It's like you absolutely have to deliver for this person that's putting all of that work in. So it was kind of nice to step into a role where it's like I have responsibility and influence on how this goes. And other than the lack of sleep and crazy sleep schedule, because it's like I'd start at like 4 a.m., go until midnight, and then have to start at like midnight the next night, and then go and then be in the dark, for like 7 hours with him. into like 8 p.m. the next day. So we had some huge days, crazy sleep. But it's awesome, man. I love DJ. He's the man. You'll never hear him complain. He fucking loves all this stuff. And I've known him for a while. We've known each other for a while, so we have a pretty good time together. Yeah, man. It's
I followed along the best I could too. It was one of those things that I'm like, oh, it'd be super cool to like be there and help. And I realized like, yeah, I'm not in a position to help, but as you get in shape, you can hop in and do crazy shit like this. So that sounds awesome. Like not being the one going for it, but like, it takes a team, and I love that.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah, that's another thing is it feels good to put your fitness to like see your fitness come to use. Also, I looked at it as like, okay, this is, the sleep wasn't ideal, but other than that, it was a good training stimulus. And I kind of planned ahead of time. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a bunch of big things this year so that I can actually get fitter off of them while having a good time. I did the John Muir Trail, which was 200 miles and 40K gain in like 6 days. And that was with a 40-pound pack. And like that was partially for training for myself, partially for my brain, getting away from Instagram for a week and just being out in nature, unbroken. And part of it was also training for supporting DJ's FKT. I'm like, well, if I can do this, I can do 200 days, with a full backpack in 6 days. Like I can definitely take care of DJ well. And then going into the FKT with DJ, we did like a 50-mile day, another 50-mile day, and then a couple of 30-mile days. And yeah, just eating a bunch of food, moving at a slow pace. So it's like, this is going to be a good training stimulus for me. So I selfishly get to get something out of it for my fitness, and also get to help him out. It was so fun, man.
Super proud of him, especially after not finishing the first time. Yeah, going back.
Yeah, and he was so close last time.
Yeah.
Before, his lungs were just like filled with fluid for a while. It's like the fact that he made it that far off that, it's just like a testament to his drive. Yeah, his resolve.
The monster.
Yeah.
Monster.
And he worked on he worked on it. It was a single focus all year. Worked on it, does single-mindedly. So I give him kudos also for having that level of focus. I like to have a little bit more more variety,
Yeah. And talk about putting yourself at risk.
Totally, dude. Totally. Yeah, man. I mean, emotionally, physically, your reputation, it's like, yeah.
Crazy.
And it worked.
Yeah. Awesome. And then we didn't really touch on it much, but talk about your coaching. Are the prices going up now that you took second at the OCRWC?
No, they're not. No, but I have a sliding scale, so I like to be available for people. It's like I have a set number, and if someone wants to pay me more, cool. And if someone wants, can't afford that, but is passionate about improving themselves, and I'm all for it, man. I get so much value out of seeing people do the work and have a good time that, I mean, it's beyond money. I just need money to put, food on my plate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great for me. I've only missed one workout so far, and I'm looking to not having any more of those missed. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. So where can people reach out to you if they want to follow along with your races, if they're interested in getting coached by you? Because I know you have 2 Instagram accounts, which confuses me sometimes.
Oh, that's funny. I forget I have 2 sometimes, Mike. The old Read Me. That's like a historical platform now. When I used to be more in like the photography and poetry and whatnot. So Joshua Ried is my athlete profile, and that's the only one I've really been active on for the past few years.
Gotcha. And then anyone that you'd like to thank?
So many people, man. So many. I mean, yeah, my friend group and DJ and my fiance and my friends, my clients, my athletes, yourself included, everyone that's involved in the, putting races together. It's like, yeah, life is pretty rich, and there's a lot of people contributing to that.
Awesome. I think it's a good place to end it. Josh, again, congratulations, and we'll be keeping in touch, obviously.
Of course. Big race this weekend for you.
Yes, that's right.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Joshua Ried. Joshua Riedinger. Sorry that I just realized that I had been spelling your last name wrong. It was wrong on my phone. So the Reid or Ried? Yes. I mixed up the I and the E.
Oh.
So I have to fix that and all the things, because when I was doing the show notes again and again and again, I'm like, I should probably go off of his Instagram and not off of my phone. And turns out those did not match.
Because his real name is Joshua, like Josh, right?
And his last name is Riedinger.
But he just goes by Joshua?
Shua Ried. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because he did like a silly thing on Facebook, and then he registered, and then that's the name that he used, and so that kind of was its thing.
That's really funny.
Also, real quick, I see you in the reviews. There was definitely some blasphemy during this episode, and I will not apologize.
Right. Remember when I read that review, I couldn't say the word.
Yes.
I kept calling it blasphemy.
Yeah, I didn't start it this time.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, it was great.
Well.
For related episodes, there's a whole bunch, so let me get to this. So, related to OCRWC, we have episode 199, History of OCRWC with Adrian Bijanata. Episodes 247, 248, and 249 cover the OCR World Championships 2021, so the 3K, 15K, and then team and 100-meter races. Episode 255 was the last time that we had Joshua Ried on the show, which is pretty crazy. That was World's Toughest Mudder, Part 2, Brunch Interviews and Audio. Episode 298, Fran Chiarando from the OCRWC podcast. Episode 299, 300, and 301 were us covering the 2022 OCRWC. Episode 352 was Spartan Race's acquisition of OCRWC with Adrian Bijanata. That was obviously last year. And then also for last year, Ian Hosek on FISO, OCR World Championships, OCRWC, and Tough Mudder Saudi Arabia Morality. That was the only episode I did on OCRWC last year. So would you kindly go down and check those links?
Subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts. We are Obstacle Running Adventures on all of the podcast players and on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
Yeah, nice. Did we end up getting a new review?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, you can feel free to leave us a review, word it nicely, and make it be something that we're likely to change. Yeah.
If it's going to be not nice, make it funny.
Yeah, that's fair. And you can also...
And follow us on social media. I already said that. I went out of order. Support us on Patreon for as little as $2 or as many as $10.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get that Patreon video. We're definitely getting that Patreon video done during this week.
Okay.
100%, because it's been a while. I wanted to get it done on the first.
Okay, how many days have I come home, though, this week, or last week, and said, are we going to record the Patreon video before I change?
I know.
You said no.
Yeah, I need more time to get it set up, so we'll figure that out. Coming up next, hopefully an episode with another OCRWC athlete, so stay tuned for that. Caitlin, do you have a joke or a quote?
I've got both. My quote is from Dumbo. It says, the very things that held you down are going to lift you up, up, up. And then my joke is, what does a ghost eat with meatballs?
Spaghetti.
Oh, you got that so fast.
Yeah.
I have another one. What does a ghost put on his bagel?
What?
Scream cheese.
Oh, that's a good one.
And what does a baby ghost wear?
What?
A pillowcase.
A what?
A baby ghost?
Oh, baby ghost. For some reason, I heard baby goat. So I was very confused. All right, well, that just about wraps it up. My name is Michael Stefano.
My name is Caitlin Ritter.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to our show and write us a review on your favorite podcast app.
You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and connect with us there.
Most importantly, we would appreciate it if you shared an episode with a friend so we can reach more ears
They continue to effectively shine a light on the people in our sport, as well as the events that we are so passionate about.
Our intro song is Street Crew by Straight Up, and our outro music is Iron Call by The Best.
Mammoth was so good. It was just a great race trip.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad it was so successful for you too, because I was listening to the draft, and I know you were keeping it secret, but Race Brain didn't even have you on the list, so it was popped up. And
I dropped a little, what do you call it, Easter egg, I thought, because I had a workout 4 weeks before the race, and it was a local climb in Durango called Halfland Creek Climb, and it's kind of like the local test piece where, Jim Walmsley, Zach Miller, Tate Legaska, Chad Hall, Howard Groats, all professional high-level mountain runner or pro cycling athletes, high level. and they all have times on it. And I went and did it, and I ended up like 5th, just, I don't know, 40 seconds behind Chad Hall. I was like, oh shit. Wow. And so as I posted that in my story and tagged Race Brain, saying like, oh, OCRWC, you know, whatever. But yeah, they weren't keen to that. So that's all right. It's fun to kind of just show up and not have been talked about at all and just have no pressure whatsoever.
When you told me, I didn't even tell the OCR report, so like they didn't even know. So
you are so loyal.
You said this, and I'm like, all right, I'm not telling anyone. And usually, like, I won't tell anyone except for them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let this play out, see how it goes. All right, we can end it there. Yeah, I reached out to Rob McCoy about moving my registration to this year, and he still hasn't gotten back to me, which is pissing me off because I am ready enough. I think I might go down to the 12-hour one because I'm not looking to, like, 30 hours is a lot. Mentally,
it's a walk.
I think
it's a long walk.
But at 12 hours, I'd still be very happy with that too. And
totally. Would the 12-hour be through the night, or is that a daytime one?
I believe it's a daytime one, which I would rather through the night. I really like that aspect of it, especially in October, with all the spooky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to really going out there.
I hope people know that when I'm laughing at their names, it's not their names. It's because I'm butchering them so poorly.
Mm-hmm.